and Zubin.
Aaron Rodgers is basically looking at the Packers and saying, guess what, guys? It's not my job to be easy to deal with. RELAX.
Now, things aren't exactly perfect and done yet.
You know this more, man, where that come from.
He knows exactly how to play the long game.
I win so much they want to know who I'm coached by.
Rodgers wanted Randall Cobb back. Know this. However it went down, he has gained some measure of control over this situation.
You know you like that.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back into Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Shay Cornett, Jordan Cornett here, hanging out with you again on a Wednesday morning. And yes, welcome back to Aaron Rodgers. He's found his way to Green Bay. If you have not seen the images yet of what this dude looked like strolling into Lambeau Field, gem. Just a gem.
He's wearing an office shirt.
Just a gem.
Looked like a college kid.
He really did. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and all guests join us on the Goodyear Hotline. Lots to get to, especially last night in the Olympics, too. Simone Biles, at this point, is having some pressure situations, has decided that she needs to take a step back. And obviously, we saw yesterday that she was going to take a step back from the group round. And then this morning, it was reported that she is going to take a step back as well from the next individual round. And we will see how this, we will see how this progresses. But nonetheless, she is taking care of her mental health. And we will dive further into that later on. But good for her. And we can only hope that she gets stronger from that. Also, Team USA beat Iran last night in Tokyo 120-66 to keep their knockout round hopes alive. Team USA was a 41.5-point favorite. That is per Caesars William Hill Sportsbook. Dame Lillard had 21 points. Book scored 16. Jason Tatum had 14. And the U.S. had 19 three-pointers, 23 of its 37 shots, 62% inside the arc. Let's just say this. They came back yesterday. They looked more like, I think, the Team USA that we were all expecting them to look like here on out. Now they just need to continue it, and they will face the Czech Republic next. And that would be, I believe, in the wee early mornings on Saturday?
Saturday, yep.
Yeah.
And this was expected, right? I mean, you come out there, you got to handle business. You are infinitely better than the opposition in Iran, and you go out there and you play like it. But to me, it's going to be a matter of, as the level of talent in competition rises back to that of, say, a France who they weren't able to beat last week. It's a matter of, can you fit into the style of Coach Popovich's, which it leans heavily on quick reaction and split. He likes to say in 0.5 seconds, make the decision, shoot, pass, drive, and attack. Not like some of these stars typically do as you watch an NBA game. Grab the basketball, survey the scene, read and react, and then attack. It's snap decision. So you're taking guys who haven't played that San Antonio style of offense, throwing them in there and saying adjust. And yeah, you can do it against lesser competition in Iran, but can you play the level of basketball, the style of play that Coach Popovich wants when it's really nitty gritty and you're going back and forth with a team that can compete with you?
Well, we will see what happens with Team USA going forward. Again, they've got Czech Republic coming up on Saturday, and they looked really good yesterday against Iran. They had to beat these two teams, obviously, to advance there in Tokyo, and hopefully they are starting to figure out some chemistry and some sort of way that they can gel together. Let's get to the big news, though, that happened yesterday, and that would be Aaron Rodgers finally reporting to training camp there in Green Bay. It felt like this was legitimately up to the minute. You and I were on the air when he actually did arrive there in Green Bay, and it was a long time coming, but it seems like all the contract details have been worked out. What those are, we don't know yet. Hopefully in the next coming days, we will learn more about that. But nonetheless, and whether or not he's fully happy, we don't know yet either. But he did look relaxed, cool, calm, and collected heading into Green Bay yesterday. If you saw him walking into Lambeau Field, flip-flops, a T-shirt, his hair in a bun. I mean, he literally looked like a college kid that was heading into class. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. And there's this kind of feeling now that Rodgers is back. And what is that feeling exactly? Well, let's hear from Rob Demonski, our ESPN Packers reporter.
Imagine what it would be like right now if he weren't here, if he didn't show up, the angst that would be around this place, around the coaches, around the other players. Back in May, Coach Matt LaFleur was asked, what happens if Rodgers doesn't show up when training camp starts? And LaFleur told us, I can't even take my brain there. Well, obviously, with Rodgers showing up, LaFleur's brain doesn't have to go there. Now, things aren't exactly perfect and done yet. We don't know yet if Rodgers will be on the practice field behind me tomorrow morning when training camp actually kicks off at 10:10 local time. But a good sign was that Rodgers did not end up on any of the reserved, injured PUP lists that the Packers sent out and sent into the league today. So he could be on that field if things are finalized between now and tomorrow morning.
Okay, also, I want to just make a note here that we are going to hear from Packers GM Brian Gutekunst. He speaks to the media at 8:30 a.m. Central. That's 9:30 Eastern today, so we'll be able to get even more details on Rodgers' return and the Packers before the end of the show today. So we'll make sure to give you all those details when we have them.
And that word that has become the buzzword in these negotiations that ultimately got Aaron Rodgers back to Green Bay. We keep hearing that buzzword of concessions. Concessions. Well, what are those concessions? What did Green Bay concede to ultimately get the Hall of Famer to return there to Green Bay? And as more light gets shed on that, it'll be more of an understanding of this paradigm of power. And has it shifted towards Aaron Rodgers, or was this truly a compromise on both sides to make this happen for this 1 year? It might also shed more light on the possibility of Aaron Rodgers ultimately finishing his entire career in Green Bay, or him moving into free agency. Some of the stuff that comes out of this presser from Gutekunst today may enlighten us a little bit more.
So in terms of those concessions, and every time I say that, I'm over here thinking about nachos, but nonetheless.
It's really early to be thinking about nachos already.
You don't know your wife very well then. So anyways, in terms of these concessions, let me just list them off for you again, that we did learn of some of them via Adam Schefter and what was being reported. However, the devil's in the details, and we don't have all the details just yet. Nonetheless, the 2023 year in Rodgers' contract, the last one on his current deal before the one that they reworked, would be voided, so there's no tags allowed for him in the future. Again, these are the concessions that we do know.
Which is massive.
Right, of course, that were implemented in order to get him into Green Bay, into training camp. The Packers would agree to review Rodgers' situation at the end of this season, whatever that looks like, whether that is playoffs, not playoffs, Super Bowl or not. Rodgers' contract would be adjusted with no loss of income to give the Packers more cap room right now, so they could sign guys like Devontae Adams and perhaps Randall Cobb, which also goes with the next one. Mechanisms will be put into place to address Rodgers' issues with the team, which, as we know, because the Packers went out and drafted Jordan Love, move up to get a backup quarterback instead of going into a receiver-heavy draft class and picking a receiver. He wants more weapons. And so yesterday, we also learned of this news that perhaps the Packers could be adding an old friend named Randall Cobb. Again, Rob Demoski, ESPN Packers reporter.
It was reported a couple of days ago that Rodgers wanted Randall Cobb back. Cobb, of course, is with the Texans, but had so much success here as Rodgers' slot receiver. The fact that they're going to get this deal done, a source told me that Cobb does expect to be back in Green Bay, tells you one of two things. Either the Packers were willing to meet Rodgers' demands, if that was indeed a demand, or at the very least, they're open to suggestions that he may have as far as the roster and things that he thinks will make this team better and make it easier for him. So we know this. However it went down, he has gained some measure of control, over this situation.
Okay, and this is great. I really appreciate the Packers taking an approach of, okay, we heard you. You were aggravated. You're our star quarterback. What can we do to make this right? But Jordan, maybe this is like the woman in me coming out, it's a little late for all this. It feels a little late for all of this. And I guess it's better late than never. I will throw that out there, and there's that phrase for a reason. But all of the restructuring and all of the whatever you want, we'll give you, okay, let's call Randall Cobb and let's get this all worked out and figured out, feels so fluffy and fake a little bit to me. And quite frankly, the more I hear these kinds of things come out, they're going to do whatever it takes, to make Aaron Rodgers happy. Good. But where were these conversations a year ago? Where were these conversations 3 months ago when you were flying back and forth to California to try and get everything worked out?
I hear you. I don't disagree with you at all. But here's the thing about if you're truly a smooth operator and you're truly slick with it, is if you give somebody 365 days to try and right a wrong that occurred in one draft off season from a year ago.
It wasn't just that, though.
That was the tipping point. That's what really got this whole thing. That was the first fracture of the foundation. Most likely, from what we know, if we're speculating.
I'll agree with that.
Some stuff along the way, perhaps. But what basically we can come to know about the situation is Aaron Rodgers did not receive, he felt like, the love he deserved or respect he deserved from the organization. So to get to this point now where you've been able to come together to get him on the field by these concessions, by allowing him the flexibility in the contract to have it reworked. So free agency is an opportunity for him in this next year. You guys were able to come together and make it work for this 1 year. That's getting over a certain threshold.